Well, g'day and welcome to another Mongrel production, and welcome to Tet, Vietnam's celebration of the New Year. On this trip, Trevor and I plan to cycle through parts of Laos, cross the border into Vietnam. He'll fly back to Australia from Da Nang, and I'll continue on to Ho Chi Minh City. Grab your gear, let's go. Oh, and Happy New Year. Well, welcome to Laos. I arrived this morning quite early, about 8:30, so we had lots of time to assemble the bikes and trailer. In no rush to get to the hotel because check-in's not till about 2 o'clock. I was able to pick up a SIM card, a local SIM card for both Trevor and I, so we can access the internet and also ring each other if we need to. And yeah, assembled the bikes, inflated the tyres, and we're now making our way to the hotel, which I booked before we arrived. So far so good. First impressions, it's a lot quieter than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't have the usual chaos that a lot of Southeast Asian cities have. So far so good. Trevor and I have just climbed their Victory Monument. You get a good aspect of the city from up here. That's the view looking down towards their presidential palace. Well, we've left their capital, Vientiane. We left this morning about an hour or so ago. That's the Mekong River there, with what they call the Friendship Bridge, the border crossing between Laos and Thailand. Thailand is on the other side of the river there. We've got about an 80-kilometre day ahead of us today. Probably take 4.5, 5 hours of riding, I guess. So far the conditions have been okay. The road may deteriorate the further away from Vientiane that we get. Well, it's early afternoon on the first day. We're going to shorten our day by about 13 kilometres. We're supposed to be 80 kilometres using the back roads, using the Maps.me app that I use to navigate. 40 kilometres out of town, the road became unsealed following the Mekong River, and I didn't know how long that was going to go for, so we're using a link road now to get onto their major highway and cycle the remaining 10 kilometres or so to the guest house using that. When I chose this place as a destination, I had to be mindful of the geography of the place. Laos generally is very, very hilly and mountainous, and I'm probably getting a bit old, a bit long in the tooth to be doing those sorts of hills, so the route we've decided on is relatively flat in most parts. We'll only be in country for a couple of weeks, and we're probably not doing the usual backpacker or cycle tourist routes, I guess, but that's okay. We'll still get an idea on the culture, and that's what cycle touring is all about, I guess. It is supposed to be enjoyable. I don't want to die of a heart attack. Trevor's complaining about his knees. His knees are dodgy on good days, so yeah, anyway. Well, it's day 4 on the road. We've had a bit of a complication. Trevor's done himself a knee injury. He's had a history of knee issues over the years. I don't want to continue because he could end up becoming a cripple, and it just ain't worth it. So we're going to cut our losses. Well, we're going to bus back to Vientiane, organise a flight for him back to Australia, and then I'll have a look at my options after that. Well, Trevor's left. He's had to return to Australia, retired hurt, and I guess the harsh reality is his cycle touring days could be over. That knee is never going to improve, I don't think, which is sad. We've been to many countries together, and certainly parts of Australia as well, so I'll miss him as a riding partner. I'm leaving Vientiane now for the second time this week, making my way to the bus station, which is 10 kilometres out of town. From there I'll catch a bus 350 kilometres to Phuket, I think it is, which will put me back on schedule, and I'll continue cycling tomorrow, of course, making my way towards Vietnam over the next number of days. Well, I've arrived at Phuket later than expected. It's dark. The local guest houses don't have very many positive reviews, so I'm going to go to a hotel just down the road, which is going to be a bit more expensive, but probably give me a better night's sleep, I think. Well, this is typical of a cockfighting arena or stadium or whatever you call it. Banned in all Asian countries, policed in the cities, but out here in the country, different story. Yeah, they normally stick them in these cages in the full sun for a couple of hours before the fight, just to get them angry, just to piss them off, and then of course, attach razors to their feet, and of course it's a fight to the death. Well, I guess the single biggest issue for most of us when we're on the road is where we're going to stay each night. Guest houses are in plentiful supply here in Laos, and the good thing is that they're written in English as well, so that takes the guesswork out of it. The ones I've stayed in range from, I don't know, $13 to $18 Australian, I guess, maybe $10 to $15 US. You don't get much for your money, but all you want is a place to stay, isn't it? And that $13 to $18 is with air conditioning, so you can't really complain about that. And as I said, they're all written in English, and most of them are marked on either Maps.me or on Google Maps, which also helps you. Well, I'm glad today's over. But anyway, another $13 Australian, another $13 room. Come and have a look. Bearing in mind you get what you pay for, but in this case, big double bed, a little flat screen TV, most importantly air conditioning, and toilet and shower, not a squat toilet, one you can sit on, and of course hot water, all you need. I've just returned from having dinner at the local village karaoke bar. I won't be making that mistake again. Well, there's no mistake on what these painted lines mean, and with so much limited use of helmets, you'd expect it to be a fatality, wouldn't you? Always makes me nervous when I see this sort of thing. Sometimes you just see the weirdest shit. Well, a relatively easy day today. I'm still heading east, of course, to the border. I'm at a place called Dong Hen, I think it is. I don't know, doesn't matter. The road is in good shape, surprisingly. I haven't seen a pothole for 40 kilometres. I think it was partly funded or gifted by the Japanese, and I'm not quite sure what the relationship is there, but it's in the best shape I've ever seen a road in this place. Unfortunately, there's been a strong easterly, and I knew that before I signed up for this. I did a bit of research. I use Crazy Guy on a Bike, the global forum or the global website, as a source of intel, and do all my research on that website. It's pretty handy, so if you're thinking about getting into cycle touring, I would suggest you go and check it out. If there's a road or track out there, chances are somebody's cycled it long before you thought about it. And in that website it actually talks about this easterly breeze. I think it's seasonal. Yeah, not much fun of course, but I guess if you're prepared for it, then it's not so much of a surprise. This main road is actually indicated as partly unsealed on some of the older maps. Not sure when it was sealed, but I knew that once again before I signed up. I knew it was sealed all the way to the border. I wouldn't want to do it if it was gravel. Well, I'm about to cross into Vietnam. The last 3 days have been pretty uninteresting, really. That, you know, I probably expected that. It's because of the route that I chose, and the headwind hasn't helped either. It's been pretty constant for the last 3 days of riding, so I'm looking forward to that to end, whenever that is. Well, welcome to Vietnam. I've always found border crossings to be interesting experiences. You never know what's going to happen. Anyway, we got through successfully. I organised the visa before I left Australia weeks ago. I mean, blokes like me can't get a visa on arrival, not at these sort of outposts. Well, I gave my heart to the sappers at Coastline, and I sold my soul with the cigarettes to the black market man. I'm at Coastline, the village at least. I'm staying there overnight. I entered the country yesterday, just on my way to what used to be a fairly major combat base operated by the US Marines and Infantry, supported by an airfield. In fact, the airfield was the only way in and out there for a long time. All other means of supply were cut off, and that particular combat base saw a lot of activity, and a lot of people died from both sides. The Australians never served there. It was purely US. And White Cold Chisel, the band, decided to make a song about it. I don't know, but it was a popular song in its day, and still is. I'm just following what I think is a motorcycle track. I think I'm actually on the old runway. That aside, these sorts of visits are always pretty sobering. One of the problems the Americans faced is they were outgunned. The opposition had artillery pieces that had a longer range and had them deployed in the surrounding hills. So the Americans didn't have a lot of option other than use, obviously, aircraft to try and strike back at the artillery. Well, I'm about to leave Khe Sanh. By the end of today, I'll be beachside at the coast of Dong Ha. It's 82 kilometre ride today, but on a positive note, the first few kilometres is all downhill. It's a very steep grade, elevation of about 400 metres descent, so I'm looking forward to that. Well, I've finally been able to get off road number 9 and take some minor back roads. It means I'm going to cover further distance, and it'll take a bit longer, but I'd much rather that and enjoy the ride and relax a little. Well, preparations for Tet are well underway. Tet, the Vietnamese New Year, quite often falls in line with the Chinese New Year. Not always, but quite often. I don't know whether that's the case this year. But yeah, people are cleaning up their house, making things look good. G'day buddy, say hello. Making things look nice, and your family get back together, so everybody returns home to help celebrate. I don't know where I'm going to be on the day, which is in a few days' time. It'd be nice if I was in a regional city or a regional town to enjoy the celebrations. My understanding is the place pretty well closed down, so I don't know what I'm going to do for food. I'm sure I'll be able to get by somehow. This hotel wasn't my first choice. I actually pulled up at another one, and I thought I'll go up the road and have a look. I'm not sorry I did. $30 Australian, winner winner. And did I mention that includes breakfast? Trevor, I did promise you palm trees and beaches, so here I am, taking one for the team. Well, I've left for the morning. I continue to head, I'll call it south, along the coast, taking back roads once again. Although later the roads will improve. Sometimes you can't pick and, well, you can pick and choose, but yeah, I choose to, I guess, stick to the back roads for a number of different reasons. And sometimes you've got to take the good with the bad, don't you, you know? The trailer always seems to generate a lot of interest, in particular amongst the blokes. It must be a bloke thing. I think it's all about the engineering and the mechanics behind it, how it's set up, how it's hooked up to the bike, the fact that it's got a sprung rear frame or a swing arm. I guess, yeah, they're naturally curious. They wouldn't see that sort of thing too often. I do enjoy travelling with the trailer. I've had that trailer for years. It's been countless thousands of kilometres, both within Australia and overseas. I've done the pannier thing. I did that when I first started getting into cycle touring. And then had a look at the options. Once I wore out the first set of panniers, I thought, well, maybe there's an option out there. So tried the trailer and never looked back, really. It's just, and we're all different, I understand that. But it works for me. It works for me. Well, still heading south. I'm just north of Da Nang at the moment. I'll be there tomorrow. Crossing a bridge, and if you have a look at the mountains behind us, that's the sort of coastline which includes something named the Headwinds Pass, and I'll tell you about the Headwinds Pass later. Well, I'm still just a little bit north of Da Nang. I'll be there tomorrow. I've booked into a hotel which is right on the beach. The beach is deserted. It's got to be there off season. It's Sunday today, Tet is on Tuesday. So yeah, I guess pretty much the place is wound completely down because of Tet. I'll be in Da Nang for the Tet festivities. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I've spent an extra couple of bucks on the hotel. I know my children would want that. After all, it's their inheritance that I'm spending. The beach is not bad. I'm from Australia and we're pretty sport for choice there. But like I say, the beach is not bad. It's relatively clean and tidy. The sand feels good underfoot, so you know, there's probably worse places I could be. Well, I'm on my way to the Headwinds Pass. The Headwinds Pass from this direction is a 10-kilometre steep climb with lots of switchbacks and an 8-kilometre descent. I did the pass 18 years ago with a good friend, Wayne. If you're out there, I love you, buddy. But it's hard going. Since then, they've opened a tunnel, a 6-kilometre long tunnel through the mountain. The only thing is that scooter riders and cyclists are banned. Not allowed to take your bike in there. But I do believe they've got a system of taxi trucks or something that'll ferry your bike through for a fee. So I might take that option. At the top of the mountain, at the top of the pass, is an old French fort. And the views are spectacular. That's when it's not clouded in. Well, I've taken a wrong turn. I'm supposed to be up there. The thing in front of me before I turned off was a toll booth, a toll gate. So I thought, well, I better not go through there. But yeah, clearly I've taken a wrong turn. I'll have to backtrack. Now there's the boom gate that spooked me before, the toll gate. I guess I'll go up and have a chat to somebody. Well, I'm spooked now. I was turned away. I read that there was a system in place to ferry bikes through. They're telling me to go around. Obviously I can't understand the thing they're saying, they can't understand me. I guess I've got no options but to follow the road around and see whether there is an option. I'm scared and frightened. I'm really demoralised. Looks like I'm going to have to climb the bloody thing again. Well, I've made it. The old French fort is still there. This one's for you, Wayne. Finished the 10-kilometre climb. On the way up, I bumped into some bloke from Manchester, England. He stayed in the village at the base of the pass last night, and he said that he did see some taxi trucks lined up. He said it was on a slip road, and you know, if you weren't sure where it was, you could be excused for missing it. So the system does exist. You just got to look out for it, I guess. Well, I'm in Da Nang. It's a fairly major regional city, one of the largest in Vietnam. I don't like the big cities. They're noisy, dirty, dusty places. It's quite often hard to navigate. You've got to pull over often and do nav checks. But anyway, I'm aiming for the coastal strip, the beachside strip here. I'll pull up there for a couple of days. Well, that's the view from my 5th floor balcony. I'm rather pleased with it. That's My Cay Beach. The US used to refer to it as China Beach during the war. The US only had a major evacuation hospital here in Da Nang. Just leaving Da Nang, still heading south, going to Hoi An today, only about 30 kilometres. Looking at some old maps last night, and I noticed there was a US Air Force base along this strip here, and bugging me dead, there's evidence of the old runway still there. Hoi An's old quarter, dating back centuries of course, very popular with the Western tourists and the Asian tourists, I guess. Well, it's been an interesting morning. Still heading south, still hugging the coastline, and had a couple of really steep climbs. One to get over some headland, to get along a stretch of coast, and then one to get out, of course, at the other end. Tough climbs, really tough. I knew they were there, looking at the maps the night before, but tough climbs nonetheless. Well, this is one of the more unusual accommodation choices I've made. It's a bungalow perched on a hillside overlooking a bay. Very nice. $36 Australian. We negotiated. That's the village water supply, 1 or 2 wells. Just blows your mind. South Highway, AH1 it's called. Looks like old mate may have overcooked the corner a little bit, eh? And that's why I try and avoid the main roads where I can. It would have been one hell of an explosion. Well, this has really spooked me. This is the second incident in about 10 kilometres on this road. This time a bus. I don't know whether the thing's been sideswiped or whether it's laid over on its side. I want to get off this road as quick as I can. Well, I'm doing the coastal route thing again, and that means headland, that means steep country, that means switchbacks and steep climbs. Well, I'm approaching their highway number 1 again. You can see the flow of the traffic in the distance, and it's already starting to bring me down. I'll only be on that road for a kilometre or two, and then I get off it and parallel it for most of the way, I think. But sometimes I'm only 1 or 2 streets in from it running parallel, which suits me just fine when you compare the amount of traffic that's on the road that I'm currently on as opposed to the highway. You can understand the appeal in taking these back roads. Well, nobody seemed in a hurry to provide first aid. The bloke in the ambulance didn't even bother checking for a pulse, so my guess is that's a fatality. It's a jungle out there, kids, got to be careful. 1 minute you're on some crappy village track that's potholed and all busted up. You come out of the bush and you find a road like this, beautifully flat, newly laid asphalt with very little traffic. Well, today I've been following the coastline very, very closely. In Australia we've got a road similar to this. We call it Great Ocean Road in Victoria. Beautiful stretch of road. The scenery is pretty spectacular, both there and here. The only thing is, of course, the coastline's anything but flat. Lots of rolling country, rolling hills. Well, welcome to Nha Trang. Busy place, busy place. This is more a scene you'd expect in coastal Australia, not coastal Vietnam. That aside, still heading south, of course, and I've had a tailwind for the last few days, and I expected that. My research indicated that was going to be the case. And the other thing is, about 3 years ago I was riding into the wind, and I learned a valuable lesson. Well, this trip's coming to a close. I'm currently transiting to a town called Pan Thiet. From there I'm going to catch a train for the remaining 175 kilometres to Ho Chi Minh City, partly because the traffic in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, is absolutely chaotic. It'll be hard to navigate and focus on survival at the same time. The other thing is my visa expires in a few days' time, so yeah, I want to make sure I'm well clear of the country before that happens. Well, I was able to source a bike box relatively quickly. Saigon traffic is absolutely chaotic. A lot of one-way streets as well, which doesn't help. I'm glad I took the train in yesterday, because it would have been chaos trying to navigate and survive at the same time. Well, this holiday's coming to a close. 2,000 kilometres, 5 weeks. Back to work, slackers.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.